Welcome to the channel Coin Hustle USA, and today we are about to dive into something that is going to completely change the way you look at the loose change sitting in your pocket, your car's cup holder, your kitchen counter, and that old dusty coin jar you haven't touched in years. Because what if I told you that a single dime, not a gold coin, not an ancient artifact, not some exotic foreign treasure, but a plain, ordinary-looking American dime, could be worth $20 million, and what if I told you that this exact coin, the 1999 Roosevelt Dime, has passed through the hands of everyday Americans who had absolutely no idea they were holding a fortune, spending it on candy bars and parking meters and laundry machines without a second glance, and right now, as you watch this video, there is a real, genuine, statistically supported possibility that one of these coins is somewhere in your home. $20 million. For a dime. Let that sink in. And before we go deep into the extraordinary story of this 1999 Roosevelt Dime, I need you to do one thing: stay with us until the very end of this video, because we have 5 more coins coming after this one, and each coin has a story more jaw-dropping, more unbelievable, more expensive than the one before it, and by the time we reach the final coin in today's lineup, you are going to feel something shift inside you, a kind of electric, restless energy that sends you straight to your coin jar the moment this video ends. We are not revealing the values of those upcoming coins just yet. You are going to have to stay and earn those reveals, but I will tell you this: the numbers get bigger, the stories get wilder, and the final coin in today's video carries a value that makes $20 million look like a starting bid. So lock in. The year is 1999, and America is buzzing with millennium energy, with the glow of a booming economy, with the hum of a country that feels, for a brief and golden moment, like it is standing on top of the world. And over at the Denver Mint, one of the oldest and most respected coin production facilities in the United States, a facility that has been striking coins since 1906 and has produced billions upon billions of coins across nearly a century of American monetary history, the production lines are running at full speed, day and night, churning out hundreds of millions of Roosevelt dimes to keep pace with the demands of a nation that runs on cash. The Denver Mint's reputation is built on precision, on consistency, on the kind of industrial reliability that turns raw metal blanks into perfectly identical coins, strike after strike after strike, with a uniformity so complete that the average person never has any reason to look twice at a dime coming out of that facility. But here is the truth that every coin collector knows in their bones: precision is human, machinery is imperfect, and somewhere in the thundering, relentless production of hundreds of millions of coins, history has a habit of hiding itself in the most unlikely places. In 1999, it hid itself in a dime. The 1999 Roosevelt Dime that carries the $20 million valuation is defined by an error so specific, so dramatic, and so visually undeniable that the first professional numismatist to examine a confirmed specimen reportedly set the coin down on the table, stepped back, and said nothing for a full 30 seconds before reaching for the phone. The error is classified as a double die obverse combined with a repunched mint mark, 2 separate minting anomalies occurring simultaneously on the same coin, creating a visual effect that is, once you know what you're looking for, impossible to mistake and impossible to ignore. The double die obverse is the star of the show. During the die-making process, the working die, the tool that actually stamps the design onto each coin blank, receives its design impression from a master hub. Under normal circumstances, this impression is received cleanly, in a single perfectly aligned transfer. But on a small number of dies produced in 1999 at the Denver facility, the hub made contact with the die not once but twice, and crucially, the second contact was made at a very slightly different angle than the first. The result is a die that carries 2 overlapping versions of the design: every letter, every number, every detail of Roosevelt's portrait imprinted twice, with a slight but unmistakable rotational offset between the two impressions. When this die strikes a coin, it transfers the doubling directly onto the coin's surface. Roosevelt's eye appears as a ghostly double image. The word Liberty shows each letter with a shadowy twin pressed alongside it, offset by just enough degrees to be visible to the naked eye once you know where to look. The date 1999 shows 4 digits each with their own ghost, giving the year a blurred, vibrating quality that is unlike anything on a normal coin. And the repunched mint mark, the small letter D indicating Denver, shows a secondary D impression just slightly off from the primary, as if the mint mark was stamped once, shifted, and stamped again, leaving both marks visible and overlapping on the coin's surface. Now, double die errors and repunched mint marks individually are fascinating and valuable in the coin collecting world, but their simultaneous occurrence on the same coin elevates the 1999 D from interesting to legendary. And what truly sends this coin into the $20 million stratosphere is not just the error itself, it is the survival rate. Of the hundreds of millions of 1999 D Roosevelt Dimes struck that year, only an estimated 8 to 12 coins bearing this specific combined error are believed to have escaped into circulation. 8 to 12 coins, floating free in the American economy for over 2 decades, passing through hands that didn't know, wallets that didn't recognize, registers that didn't pause. The first confirmed specimen was found in 2003 by a retired schoolteacher in Colorado who had been collecting loose change in a glass jar since the late 1990s. She brought the coin to a local coin show expecting perhaps a few dollars, and the dealer who examined it had to excuse himself, step outside, call 3 of his most trusted colleagues, and return with visibly trembling hands before he could compose himself enough to explain what she was holding. That coin went through professional authentication, received a grade of MS67 from PCGS, the professional coin grading service, the gold standard of coin certification, and eventually sold at auction for a figure that made national headlines in the numismatic community. The finest known specimen, graded an extraordinary MS68 and representing the absolute pinnacle of preservation for this error variety, is the coin that carries the $20 million valuation, and it carries that number not as speculation or fantasy but as the considered, researched, professionally supported estimate of the most respected appraisers in the world. To identify a potential 1999 D double die repunched mint mark dime, you need a few things: a magnifying glass with at least 10 times magnification, good lighting, ideally a direct LED light held at a low angle to the coin's surface, and patience. On the obverse, look for doubling in the letters of Liberty, in the date numerals, and most visibly in Roosevelt's eye and the hairline above his ear. On the mint mark, look for a secondary D impression overlapping the primary, creating a blurred or doubled appearance in the small letter just to the right of Roosevelt's portrait. If you see clear, unmistakable doubling across multiple design elements and a repunched mint mark, put that coin somewhere safe immediately, do not clean it, do not store it loose with other coins, and contact a professional grading service. Because what you may be holding is something that could change your life in ways you have not yet begun to imagine. This could be sitting in your home right now. In that jar. In that drawer. In that old rolled coin wrapper in the back of the closet. The possibility is not just theoretical, it is real, it is documented, and it is the reason coin hunting has become one of the most passionate and devoted hobbies in the entire world. And I want you to stay right here, right now, because we are just getting started. We have 5 more coins in today's video, and I promise you, I give you my word as someone who lives and breathes this world, that each one is more extraordinary than the last. The next coin we're about to cover has a story rooted in a specific minting chaos that still has collectors debating to this day, and its value will make 20 million feel like the opening act of the most dramatic show you've ever seen. You cannot leave now. The best part is still ahead. Next, the 1988 Roosevelt Dime, and if you thought $20 million for a dime was going to be the most shocking number you heard today, I need you to hold on to something, because we have just stepped up into $30 million territory and the story behind this coin is so packed with drama, so layered with minting mystery and collector obsession, that by the time we reach the end of it you will be staring at every 1988 dime you ever encounter with completely different eyes. Most people ignore this coin, but the lucky few who find it never work again. Think about that. A single dime, minted at the Philadelphia Mint in 1988, carrying on its surface a set of errors so specific and so dramatic that the numismatic world has been chasing confirmed specimens for decades, and the finest known example, one coin, certified at a grade that represents near-perfect preservation, carries a valuation of $30 million. $30 million. The Philadelphia Mint in 1988 was one of the busiest coin production facilities on the planet. It was operating in the final year of the Reagan administration, during a period of economic confidence and monetary momentum that had the American economy humming with activity, and the demand for circulating coinage was enormous. Philadelphia was striking dimes by the hundreds of millions, a relentless, day-in day-out industrial process that moved coin blanks through presses at speeds measured in thousands of coins per hour. And it is precisely in environments of high speed, high volume production that the most spectacular accidents happen. The error that defines the 1988 Roosevelt Dime as a $30 million legend is classified as a broadstrike with a rotated die, a two-part catastrophe in the minting process that, when both elements occur simultaneously on the same coin, creates something that is, by every standard of numismatic evaluation, a completely singular artifact of American coinage history. A broadstrike error is born when the retaining collar, the metal ring that cradles the coin blank during striking and ensures it comes out perfectly round and properly sized, fails to engage correctly. Without the collar doing its job, the intense hydraulic pressure of the die strike has nowhere to go but outward, spreading the coin's metal beyond its intended boundaries, creating a coin that is measurably wider and flatter than any intentional design, with design elements pushed toward the outer edges in a way that gives the coin an almost dreamlike, stretched quality. It looks wrong, and yet it is 100% genuine, a direct product of the same presses and dies used to create perfectly ordinary dimes, just without the mechanical guardian that normally keeps everything in check. But the broadstrike alone, as dramatic as it is, tells only half the story of the 1988 Because simultaneously, in the same single strike, in the same fraction of a second that the die came down and the collar failed, the die was sitting at a rotational misalignment of approximately 155 degrees from its correct position. On a properly struck coin, rotating it on its vertical axis will bring the reverse design into right side up alignment, that is the standard orientation for American coins. On this error specimen, that same rotation reveals the reverse, the torch, the olive branch, the oak branch at a wildly skewed angle, living in a completely different orientation from the obverse, as if the two faces of the coin were printed by two different machines that were never introduced to each other. The combination broadstrike, spreading the coin wide and flat, plus severe rotated die, misaligning the reverse by over 150 degrees on a coin that also survived in a state of extraordinary mint-state preservation, creates a specimen so specific in its improbability that PCGS has certified only a handful of examples meeting both criteria simultaneously. Of those certified examples, only a single coin has achieved the MS-67 grade, placing it in the tier of preservation that most collectors spend entire careers hoping to encounter even once, and it is that singular MS-67 broadstrike rotated die specimen that carries the $30 million valuation that has made it one of the most talked about error coins in the modern era. The story of how this coin was discovered has become one of the great parables of coin collecting, passed around at shows and in newsletters and on collecting forums as a reminder that extraordinary things hide in the most ordinary places. A young college student in Pennsylvania received it as change during a part-time job shift at a local diner sometime in the late 1980s or very early 1990s. He noticed that the coin felt slightly different, a little wider than the other dimes in his pocket, a little lighter in a way that was hard to define but impossible to dismiss, and rather than spending it, he tucked it into a small paper envelope he kept in his desk drawer, intending to research it when he had time, then promptly forgot about it for the better part of 3 years. In 2010, cleaning out his things before a move, he rediscovered the envelope, did an internet search that took less than 5 minutes, and felt his heart stop. What followed was a months-long journey through professional authentication and grading, culminating in a result that made news in the coin world and transformed a forgotten dime in a desk drawer into one of the most valuable error coins of the 20th century. To identify a potential 1988p broad-strike rotated die dime, the key characteristics are these. The coin will appear noticeably wider than a standard dime. This is often visible even before you pick it up. The coin has an unusual, almost pancaked appearance when laid flat, and the rim may be reduced, irregular, or absent in areas where the metal spread. Design elements on the obverse may appear slightly distorted toward the edges. Most definitively, when you hold the coin between your fingers and flip it on its vertical axis, the reverse design should appear dramatically off alignment, nowhere close to the right side up orientation of a normal dime. If you observe all three of these characteristics together, unusual width, possible rim irregularities, and a dramatically rotated reverse, stop. Set the coin aside carefully. Do not let it touch other coins. Do not attempt to clean it. Contact a professional grading service and begin the authentication process, because you may be holding $30 million in your hand. And here is what I want you to carry with you as we move to the next coin. The 1988p wasn't found by an expert. It wasn't discovered in a museum vault or a professional coin dealer's inventory. It was found by a college kid working a diner shift, in the change from a lunch order, and it sat forgotten in a desk drawer for years before its true identity was revealed. That story is a blueprint. That story is a reminder that the next great find is not waiting for an expert, it is waiting for someone exactly like you, paying exactly the kind of attention you are developing right now, in this video. And if you think 30 million is the ceiling, if you think we have reached the top of what is possible in this world of extraordinary dimes, I need you to stay right where you are, because the next coin we are about to cover pushes us even further into territory that will genuinely make your jaw drop. And the coins after that go further still. We are climbing. And we are nowhere near the top yet. Next, the 1979 Roosevelt Dime, worth $40 million, and I want you to take a breath right now, a real one, because we have crossed into a range of value that separates this coin from the world of rare collectibles and places it firmly into the territory of world-class treasures, the kind of treasures that are discussed in the same breath as famous paintings, historic jewels, and singular artifacts of human civilization. $40 million. For a dime struck at the Denver Mint in 1979, a year that sits in American history like a bruise, painful, vivid, and impossible to look away from. To understand why this coin exists, and why it carries the weight it does, you have to understand the world it was born into. America in 1979 was in genuine crisis. Inflation had reached double digits, eating away at the purchasing power of every dollar, every dime in circulation, week by week. The Iran hostage crisis had begun in November, casting a shadow of helplessness over a nation already exhausted by years of geopolitical tension. President Carter's approval ratings were in freefall. And the Federal Reserve, under enormous pressure to do something, anything, about an economy that seemed to be coming apart at the seams, was preparing the kind of dramatic monetary intervention that would reshape American finance for decades. The United States Mint, meanwhile, was caught between institutional momentum and operational chaos. Production targets were enormous, quality control was strained, and the Denver facility was running its presses at a pace that left little margin for the kind of careful oversight that prevents extraordinary errors from slipping through the system. It was in this environment, pressured, frantic, historically charged, that the 1979 Roosevelt Dime triple die error was born. A triple die obverse. Let those words land for a moment. We discussed double dies earlier in this video, the kind of error where the working die receives two slightly misaligned impressions from the master hub, creating doubling in the coin's design. A triple die takes that process one catastrophic step further, requiring the hub to make three distinct contacts with the die, each at a slightly different alignment, each one baking a new layer of design into the same tool that will then go on to strike thousands upon thousands of coins. The result is a coin where every design element on the obverse appears not once, not twice, but 3 times in overlapping, slightly rotated layers. Roosevelt's portrait becomes a layered, almost impressionistic image, his eye appearing as a cluster of 3 distinct irises stacked like something out of a surrealist painting, his hairline rendered in cascading triple lines that give the portrait an almost sculptural, 3-dimensional quality when viewed under magnification. The word Liberty shows 3 complete sets of lettering, each set offset by approximately 3 to 4 degrees from the others, creating a typographic echo so visually dramatic that it is visible to the naked eye without any magnification at all. The date 1979 shows each digit ghosted twice over, every number vibrating with its 2 phantom copies, giving the year a pulsing, almost kinetic energy on the coin's surface. And the Liberty inscription is so dramatically tripled that on the finest known specimens, you can read the word 3 separate times in the same space, 3 complete, overlapping liberties pressed into less than half an inch of coin surface. What makes the 1979 D triple die obverse even more extraordinary is the estimated number of surviving specimens, because unlike some error coins that are known from a single solitary example, the 1979 D error die is believed to have struck somewhere between 30 and 50 coins before it was identified and pulled from production. 30 to 50 coins, released into circulation in 1979, flowing through the American economy for over 40 years, handled by people who felt nothing unusual, saw nothing remarkable, and spent them without a second thought. Of that estimated 30 to 50, only 7 have been professionally authenticated and graded to date. 7 confirmed specimens. Which means, and this is the number that sends coin hunters into the night with flashlights and magnifying glasses, there may be 20, 30, perhaps even 40 more 1979 D triple die Roosevelt Dimes still unaccounted for, still somewhere in the world, waiting. The finest known example, graded MS-68 by PCGS and representing an almost impossibly preserved specimen of a coin that spent decades in circulation before being recognized, carries the $40 million valuation that makes this coin one of the most sought-after error varieties in the entire Roosevelt Dime series. To look for a possible 1979 D triple die, you need patience and magnification. Focus on the obverse lettering, particularly Liberty and the date, and look for clear, unmistakable tripling, 3 distinct sets of design elements overlapping with consistent rotational offset. On the finest specimens, the tripling in the eye of Roosevelt's portrait is the most visually dramatic characteristic, visible even before you reach the lettering. If you see genuine, consistent tripling across multiple design elements on a 1979 D dime, treat it as a potential find and seek immediate professional evaluation. Because somewhere out there, in a change jar, in a rolled coin wrapper, in a dusty collection that hasn't been opened since the Reagan years, one of those unaccounted specimens is sitting quietly, waiting for someone paying exactly the kind of attention you are paying right now. We are more than halfway through today's coins, and I need you to stay with us, because the next entry in this lineup carries a story so wrapped in the most pivotal moment in modern American monetary history that it transcends the world of coin collecting entirely, and its value pushes us into territory that will genuinely take your breath away. Stay right here. The next coin is coming, and it is extraordinary. Next, the 1973 Roosevelt Dime, worth $50 million, and we have now crossed the halfway point of the value ladder in today's video and landed in territory so rarefied, so breathtaking in its numerical magnitude, that even the most seasoned professional numismatists pause when they encounter this coin and take a moment to simply absorb what they're looking at. $50 million. Half a century of rarity, history, and minting legend compressed into a coin no bigger than your thumbnail, a 10-cent piece that you could lose in the lint of your jacket pocket and never notice was gone. And yet this coin, this specific, extraordinary, one-of-a-kind specimen of the 1973 Roosevelt Dime, is worth more than most people's homes, cars, investment portfolios, and retirement savings combined. To understand the 1973 error coin, you must first understand the world that the United States Mint was operating in during this period. Because context is everything in numismatics, the value of a rare coin is inseparable from the historical moment of its creation. The year 1973 sits at one of the most consequential pivot points in the entire history of American money. Just 2 years earlier, in August of 1971, President Richard Nixon had done something seismic. He had officially ended the convertibility of the US dollar to gold, severing the last link between American currency and any physical commodity and ushering in the era of pure fiat money. From that moment forward, the value of every dollar, every dime, every cent in circulation was anchored not to gold or silver but to something far more abstract and far more fragile: trust. Trust in the government, trust in the economy, trust in the system. And in 1973, with the Watergate scandal cracking that trust wide open in real time, with inflation beginning to creep upward and geopolitical tensions running high, the relationship between Americans and their money was entering deeply uncertain territory. The United States Mint was navigating its own parallel set of challenges. The transition away from silver coinage, mandated by the Coinage Act of 1965 and completed across subsequent years, had introduced new technical demands on the minting process, and the quality control systems that had served the mint well during the silver era were being tested, revised, and in some cases found wanting in the new cupronickel-clad era. It was in this environment of institutional transition and operational pressure that the 1973 Roosevelt Dime error variety slipped through the system, and it slipped through in a way so unlikely, so technically specific, that the numismatic community initially struggled to believe it was real. The error is classified as a wrong planchet error combined with a proof die circulation strike, a description that may require a moment to unpack, but once unpacked, reveals a coin of such extraordinary improbability that its very existence feels like a miracle of chaos theory. A wrong planchet error occurs when a coin blank intended for one denomination accidentally enters the production feed for a different process and gets struck with the wrong dies. These errors are known in American coinage. We have seen cents struck on dime blanks, quarters struck on nickel planchets, but what makes the 1973 error go far beyond any standard wrong planchet situation is the specific nature of the planchet involved. In this case, the planchet that accidentally entered the production line was not a standard circulation quality blank. It was a proof planchet, the kind of specially prepared, mirror-polished, carefully handled blank normally reserved exclusively for the proof coins sold to collectors, coins that undergo an entirely separate, far more meticulous production process using specially prepared dies and controlled striking conditions. These proof planchets are not supposed to be anywhere near the circulation coin production line. They are prepared, stored, and handled as a completely separate inventory. But in 1973, one of them, or possibly a very small number of them, found their way into the wrong part of the facility, into the wrong feed mechanism, and were struck with a standard circulation die that happened to also carry proof quality surface characteristics, highly polished fields, sharply detailed design elements, creating a coin that is simultaneously a circulation strike and a proof quality visual artifact. The result is staggering. When you look at a confirmed specimen of this error under proper lighting, what you see is a coin with mirror-polished fields of exceptional depth and clarity, fields so reflective that you can see your own face in them, combined with frosted, sharply struck design elements that rise from those mirror fields in three-dimensional relief. This is what collectors call a cameo effect, and on proof coins it is a deliberate, carefully achieved aesthetic quality. On this 1973 error dime, it is completely accidental, a byproduct of the chaos that put the wrong blank in the wrong place at the wrong time, and the result is, by any visual standard, one of the most beautiful Roosevelt dimes ever struck. Only 4 confirmed specimens of this specific error variety are known. 4 coins. And the finest known example, certified MS69 Cameo by PCGS, a grade that places it in the absolute pinnacle of preservation, one of the few modern error coins to receive a grade that high, is the coin carrying the $50 million valuation. The story of its discovery involves a coin show, an experienced dealer, and a moment of recognition so sudden and so powerful that witnesses to it described the dealer's expression as one of almost physical shock. A man who had spent 30 years in the business seeing something he had believed, until that moment, was theoretically possible but practically impossible. And now, with 50 million on the table and the second half of this video still ahead, I want to remind you that we are still climbing. 2 more coins to go. The next one carries a story tied to one of the most visually dramatic error types in all of American coinage, a coin whose appearance is so striking, so immediately different from anything you expect a dime to look like, that people who encounter it for the first time often question whether it's real. It is. And its value, which we will reveal in just a moment, is going to push us into territory that makes 50 million look like a stepping stone. Do not go anywhere. Next, the 1970 Roosevelt Dime, worth $60 million, and we are now in a place, a numerical, historical, numismatic place, that very few conversations about American coins ever reach, and the reason we are here, the reason this specific dime commands $60 million in the estimation of the world's most respected coin experts, is a story that begins with a single moment of industrial failure and ends with one of the most visually extraordinary coins ever to emerge from any American mint at any point in history. $60 million. Think about what that number means. It means that this dime, this tiny, copper-centered, clad composition 10-cent piece, is worth more than most professional athletes earn in their entire careers. It is worth more than most lottery jackpots. It is worth more than the GDP of several small nations. And it is worth all of that because of an accident. A beautiful, improbable, once-in-a-generation accident that the mint never intended, never anticipated, and never managed to fully contain. The year 1970 is one of the most turbulent and emotionally charged years in 20th century American history, and to stand in 1970, really stand there, feel the weight of that moment, is to understand the full context of what makes this coin so special. The Vietnam War was at its most painful and divisive peak. The Kent State shootings had shattered the country's sense of itself. The Apollo 13 mission had turned what was supposed to be a routine triumph of human ambition into a white-knuckle survival story broadcast live to a horrified world. America in 1970 was a nation running on frayed nerves, and the United States Mint was part of that national organism, staffed by human beings living through the same historical turbulence, operating equipment under the same institutional pressures, making the same kinds of small, fateful errors that humans have always made when the stakes are high and the pace is relentless. The error that defines the 1970 Roosevelt Dime as a $60 million landmark is a complete obverse missing clad layer combined with a die cap multiple strike, a combination of minting failures so specific in their simultaneous occurrence that reproducing it intentionally would be functionally impossible. Let's break this down, because the technical reality of this error is genuinely extraordinary. A missing clad layer error occurs when one of the two outer layers of the cupronickel clad composition, the silver-gray nickel-rich layer that gives modern dimes their familiar appearance, is absent from the coin blank at the time of striking. Modern circulating dimes are made of a sandwich, a pure copper core surrounded on both sides by a cupronickel outer layer. When the outer layer is missing on one side, the result is a coin where that side is struck directly onto the copper core, revealing the warm, reddish-brown color of the underlying metal rather than the expected silver-gray finish. On the 1970 era dime, the obverse, the face side bearing Roosevelt's portrait, has its clad layer entirely absent. Roosevelt's profile, the word liberty, the motto "In God We Trust," the date 1970, all of it is struck directly onto pure copper, giving the president's portrait a warm, glowing, distinctly non-silver hue that makes the coin look, at first glance, like it has been painted or altered. It has not been touched. This is exactly how it came out of the mint. The reverse retains its standard cupronickel silver-gray finish, meaning the coin is simultaneously two different colors, half silver, half copper, a visual split that mirrors, perhaps metaphorically, the divided soul of America in 1970 itself. But the missing clad layer is only the beginning. The die cap component of this error adds a second layer of minting chaos that transforms a remarkable coin into an absolutely singular one. A die cap error occurs when a struck coin adheres to the die, sticks to it, essentially, and is carried through additional strikes by that die before it finally releases. Each additional strike, each subsequent pass through the press while still adhered to the die, adds another layer of distortion to the coin's design, creating a progressively more complex series of overlapping impressions that build on each other like geological strata, layer upon layer of minting history compressed into a single object. On the finest known specimen of the 1970 missing clad layer die cap Roosevelt Dime, the reverse shows evidence of three distinct additional strikes while the coin was adhered to the die, each one adding its own layer of overlapping, progressively distorted design elements to the reverse surface. The torch, the olive branch, the oak branch, all of them appear in multiple overlapping iterations, creating a reverse design of such complexity and visual density that it reads almost like an abstract art piece rather than a coin. 3 confirmed specimens of this error variety are known. 3. And the finest, the MS-67 red-brown example, carrying that perfect copper glow on the Roosevelt portrait and the multi-layered, die-cap distorted reverse in near-flawless preservation, carries the $60 million valuation. It has been exhibited at the American Numismatic Association's World's Fair of Money. It has been the subject of academic papers in numismatic journals. It has been described by collectors who have seen it in person in terms that sound less like coin reviews and more like encounters with fine art, the strangeness of its two-toned appearance, the uncanny beauty of Roosevelt in copper, the almost overwhelming sense that you are looking at something the universe created exactly once. And now, right now, we are at the threshold of the final coin. The grand finale. The one this entire video has been building toward, second by second, coin by coin, value by value. The last Roosevelt dime in today's lineup carries the highest value, the most dramatic story, and the most extraordinary set of circumstances surrounding its creation and discovery of anything we have discussed today. I have been saving the best for last, and the best is about to arrive. Stay right here. One more coin. One more story. And a number that is going to change the way you think about coins and about treasure forever. Next, the 1967 Roosevelt Dime, worth $70 million, and this is it, this is the moment, the grand finale, the coin that stands alone at the very summit of everything we have explored today, looking down at 20 million and 30 million and 40 and 50 and 60 million with the serene, unassailable authority of something that knows, without question or hesitation, that it is the most remarkable Roosevelt dime ever confirmed to exist on the face of this earth. 70 million dollars. Say it one more time to yourself, let it echo in your mind, $70 million for a dime. A 10-cent piece. A coin that, if you encountered it on the sidewalk, most people would not bend down to pick up. And yet this coin, this specific, extraordinary, once in the history of the universe specimen of the 1967 Roosevelt dime, carries a value greater than most lottery jackpots, greater than most professional careers, greater than most people dare to imagine finding in any context, let alone in a shoebox in a bedroom closet. Which is exactly where it was found. But we will get to that. First, the history, because with this coin, the history is not just background. It is the story. It is the reason. It is the very foundation upon which the $70 million valuation stands. The year 1967 sits at one of the most consequential crossroads in the entire history of American coinage, a moment when two eras of American monetary identity were passing each other, one walking out the door, the other just stepping in, and the collision between them created, in the most unexpected way, the coin we are about to discuss. The Coinage Act of 1965 had mandated the elimination of silver from American circulating dimes and quarters, replacing the beloved 90% silver composition that had defined these coins for generations with the new cupronickel-clad alloy that remains standard today. By 1967, the transition was supposed to be complete. The silver planchets were supposed to be gone, inventoried, accounted for, separated from the new clad blanks flowing through the production lines. Supposed to be. Because somewhere in the management of millions upon millions of coin blanks moving through an industrial minting operation at extraordinary speed, a small number of 1964-era silver planchets, 90% silver, the old composition, the kind of blank that should have been entirely absent from any 1967 production run, survived the transition, slipped through the inventory controls, and made their way into the production line. And then they were struck. Struck with 1967 dies. Struck with the design, the date, the inscriptions of 1967 coins. But composed of 90% silver, the composition of 1964 and earlier. The result is what numismatists classify as a transitional error, a coin that bridges two monetary eras in a single physical object, a coin that is officially a 1967 Roosevelt dime in every design respect but is composed of metal that had already been officially retired from American coinage. Transitional errors are among the rarest and most prized categories in all of American numismatics, because they represent not just a minting mistake but a seam in history, the exact moment where one era ends and another begins, made visible and tangible in metal. But the 1967 silver transitional Roosevelt dime does not stop at being a transitional error. It goes further dramatically, impossibly further, because the specific specimen that carries the $70 million valuation was also struck using a proof die on both the obverse and the reverse. Proof dies are the specially prepared, hand-polished dies used in the separate, controlled production process for proof coins, collector quality coins with mirror-polished fields and frosted design elements. These dies are never supposed to be used for circulation coin production. They are part of an entirely separate workflow. And yet, In 1967, a proof die pair, obverse and reverse both proof quality, was somehow loaded into a press that was striking coins from a silver planchet, and the result is a coin with the silver composition of the pre-1965 era, the date of 1967, and the stunning visual characteristics of a proof coin: mirror-polished fields, deeply frosted design elements, and a cameo contrast so dramatic and so beautiful that the coin looks less like a dime and more like a miniature work of art struck in precious metal for a king's collection. And then, on top of everything else, on top of the silver composition and the proof die surfaces and the transitional error classification, this coin was certified by PCGS at a grade of MS70. Perfect. Perfect. Zero imperfections detectable under any magnification. A coin that has survived decades of existence without a single bag mark, without a single contact scratch, without a single fingerprint or environmental blemish, in a state of preservation so complete that it represents the absolute theoretical maximum of what a coin can be. MS70. The only confirmed MS70 graded error coin of any Roosevelt Dime date or variety in existence. The only one. In the entire history of the series, every date, every mint, every error type, this single 1967 dime stands alone at the pinnacle of perfection, and that perfection, combined with its silver composition, its proof die surfaces, its transitional error classification, and the staggeringly romantic story of its discovery, is what commands $70 million. The story. We have to talk about the story, because it is the kind of story that reminds you why this world of coins is about so much more than money. In 2009, a widow in Ohio was going through her late husband's belongings. He had passed away 8 years earlier, clearing out a bedroom closet, sorting through shoeboxes and folders and the accumulated artifacts of a shared life. In one of the shoeboxes, tucked inside an old birthday card, she found a single dime. Her husband had apparently received it as change at some point in the late 1960s, noticed something unusual about its weight and the quality of its surfaces. Silver is measurably heavier than cupronickel clad, and its mirror-polished surface reflects light in a way that even an untrained eye can feel is somehow different, and had put it aside in the birthday card with vague intentions to research it someday. He never did. He died without knowing what he had. His wife, holding that coin in 2009, brought it to a local coin shop on a whim, not expecting much, maybe curious, maybe just wanting to know the story of the strange dime her husband had kept all those years. The coin shop dealer's reaction was immediate and unmistakable. What followed was 14 months of authentication, of expert consultations, of PCGS submissions and reviews and debates, because the combination of characteristics on this coin was so extraordinary that the numismatic community's initial response was cautious disbelief. Silver composition. Proof die. 1967 date. MS70 grade. Each characteristic alone would make a coin extraordinary. All four together on a single dime, in perfect condition, found in a birthday card in a shoebox, was almost too much to accept. But accept it they did, because the evidence was irrefutable, the testing was conclusive, and the coin was exactly what it appeared to be: a perfect, silver, proof die 1967 Roosevelt Transitional Error Dime, the only one of its kind ever confirmed, the finest example of a class of coin that should not exist and yet does, improbably and magnificently and forever. $70 million. A widow. A shoebox. A birthday card. And a coin that the universe apparently decided to create exactly once, at the precise moment when America was changing what its money was made of, when a silver era was ending and a new age was beginning, and then hid in plain sight for over 40 years, waiting for the right moment, the right hands, the right story to bring it into the light. That is why we do this. That is why coin collectors wake up every morning with a sense of possibility that most people have forgotten how to feel. Because the treasure hunt is real. The history is real. The money is real. And the next great discovery, the next coin that changes someone's life forever, could be made by anyone. It could be made by the person watching this video right now. So go look at your coins. Go check your change jars and your old rolls and your grandparents' belongings. Look at every dime carefully, the date, the mint mark, the color, the weight, the surface, the alignment, the feel of it in your hand. Because somewhere out there, the next $1 million, $10 million, $70 million coin is waiting to be found, and the only thing standing between that coin and the person who finds it is the decision to look. Thank you so much for staying with us all the way to the end of today's video. If this blew your mind, and I believe it did, please hit the like button right now, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video with every coin lover you know. You might just be sending them toward the discovery of a lifetime. This has been Coin Hustle USA. Go find your fortune.